Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It is a beautiful Wednesday afternoon to all of you. I hope that you're doing well. I appreciate you joining us for today's podcast. We have so much to cover. Let's just dig in and get right at it if you're okay with that. The first one I want to address comes to us from, let me find where it's from. It says it is from John A. in El Paso, Texas. It says, Hondo, love your podcast. What do you think about the proposal of eliminating the automatic first down on a defensive holding or illegal contact? I think it's to the defense to get unfair to the defense to get a first down, especially when it's 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20 or longer. The owners might have voted on this by the time you read it. Well, no, they haven't yet. So here's what I think. If there is a contact penalty, a holding penalty, the theory is, well, the offense could have gotten a first down. Or the theory is if it's a 3rd and 20 and they know the wide receiver is going to get behind them, they'll just tackle them. Because if it was a spot foul, they wouldn't get the first down. This one is difficult for me. I don't like automatic first downs on most penalties, but when it's a third and it's an illegal contact or holding where the defender chooses, okay, I'm just going to tackle you, rather than let you get behind me, you get a first down, but you don't get a touchdown. That's a tough pill for me to swallow. I'm going to be very blunt, and I think I'm not political. I have feelings on both sides here, so I will probably wait to hold an opinion till I talk to some GMs, owners, coaches, executives, and get their opinion of it at the owners meeting because they're going to hear both sides of the argument. To me, this is not like the tush push being eliminated, which it's not going to happen. I've talked to so many people, and almost none of them want it, unless they're completely different behind closed doors. Nobody wants to get rid of it that I've spoken to. Um, Now maybe it's just because I've been very vocal about my opinion, and they don't want to be ridiculed by me saying you can't beat it, so legislate it. But I trust the people that I talk to. I don't think it passes. But on this one, I am 50-50. I've heard great arguments on both sides. The defensive people I talk to are very compelling, but the offense are like, listen, if it's a 3rd and 10 and the guy's got let's say a running back has a defensive back beat on a wheel route. So he tackles them at 8 yards when he's going by rather than letting him have a 7 or a 9 route to the end zone. That makes sense. I've heard some people say if it happens before the first down marker, then it's just a spout foul. Again, offensive people take umbrage with that. I think defense would live with that and have no problem with it. So I want to answer you, but because I am honestly torn, I'm just going to stick right there. I apologize, and I'm not trying to be political. All right, let's get to the next one. It comes to us from uh, KCK. It says, Hondo, I have a ton of respect for your opinion, and I appreciate your comments about Calvin Johnson and first round wide receivers. But I also know you love the Brock Bowers pick. He's kind of a wide receiver. How do you juxtapose that position? Casey, I got a lot of emails on this, so I'm really glad that you addressed it. So I want to go back in case somebody missed what I said. Uh, when Calvin Johnson was coming out of the draft, he was a dude. It was a can't miss prospect. Um, a great player, a great player. And I said that would be a bad pick for the Detroit Lions because at most he impacts 15 plays a game. At most. In that you go get a lineman, they impact 65 plays a game. Go get a linebacker 65 plays a game, a corner, a defensive back, whatever. And so it on the surface would look like I was disingenuous with the Brock Bowers. But here's the deal. Brock can play multiple positions. He blocks, so he's not a liability on running downs and running plays. So he plays more than those 15. Now, some people questioned and emailed, and they were all fantastic, um, about how do you justify that? And it's because Brock plays all of the downs. But I do think that's an absolutely fair question, Casey. I have no problem with being asked that. I don't think you were calling me out at all. I think you were asking me to clarify an opinion. And again, I want to make it clear Calvin is a great, great guy. And I told him and his parents standing in the media room uh, when the Lions picked him, because his dad mentioned how much he read me and enjoyed my work. And I said, my comments about them picking Calvin was there are some positions you don't go pick in the first round unless you are that player away from being a Super Bowl team. Listen, if you have an entire team and you are a team that feels like I am a wide receiver away from a Super Bowl, you take Calvin Johnson all day long. If you're sitting there and you think we're close to a Super Bowl and we're not a wide receiver away, but we're close, you take Calvin Johnson. But what did the Lions ever do with him? Nothing. They were completely futile with him to the point where he just up and left like Barry because they were it was a feudally run organization at the time. So it was nothing to do with him. Ted McMillan is a great wide receiver. Golden, Bond. There are some great wide receivers. I don't put them all in the same group, but there are some great wide receivers in this draft that I think you can get at 2 or several even lower. To me, wide receiver is one of those spots. If you're not close to the top, a couple of key ingredients away, or a receiver away, you just don't make that pick. And that's my opinion. Now, the next emailer takes even more umbrage, respectfully. This comes from Janet P. Janet P says, Hondo, I enjoy your commentary and your talk about my Raiders. You talked about a wide receiver only impacting 15 plays, but with a Calvin Johnson, don't they draw double coverage so it's more than 15? Well, no, yes, they do, but it's minimally more. Only really in passing situations because he wasn't a superior threat down the field blocking. He would do it. So, yeah, there were situations where they would double him. 100% true. So maybe you expand it to 20, maybe 20. Still, I give you the Lions as an example. They never won a Super Bowl or even a playoff game with them. So that's where my opinion comes from. But another great question. Thank you, Janet. Next one comes to us from Anthony B. Hondo. What 3 position on this team are you most concerned about, Anthony B? I don't have 3. I've got 4. And I'll run through it. I'm concerned about corner. I love Jacorian Bennett. I think Eric Stokes can absolutely have a breakout year, but I got to see it. Okay. I think Jack Jones was great for a half a year, did some things right last year, but had a lot of struggles last year. I'm going to have to see consistency. I don't think it's a lack of talent, but even Jacorian was injured. So I think the Raiders have some talent, but I think everybody has to be concerned with corner. The next one, linebacker. I think there are some real concerns about linebacker. I mentioned yesterday they could still trade for Christian Ellis. There are some other things I know they've looked at. There are some guys on that roster that it's time for them to step up and take advantage of opportunities. Amari Burney, Amari Gaynor is one, but it would be ridiculous to say there isn't a concern. The next 2, I think the Raiders have talent. but they're very thin. And so I guess I'm going to give you 4 positions. You asked for 3. That's offensive line, where I think they have a lot of really good young talent. You start on that right side with Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule. Love what he did in his rookie year. Love what that youngster did in his rookie year. Thayer Munford, playing that swing. He's done a lot of good too. Struggled with injury last year, and even when he was back, he wasn't 100%. But I love Thayer. Okay, Dylan Parham, underrated player. Jackson Powers Johnson, JPJ. Love me some JPJ. He's just got fight in him. And he's a great, you would love him. Great kid. Jordan Meredith. Love Jordan. He is the most, kids today have a word they use called chill. I learned it from my son. He's a sophomore in college. And chill means like when we were kids, we'd say cool. So chill, just still cold temperatures, but you get it. Jordan Meredith is just the most chill guy, totally laid back. Colton Miller, when healthy, a dominant left tackle. So, yeah, but there's not a lot of depth there. And you need depth. You need depth. That's 6 guys. You're going to want to carry 7, 8, maybe even 9. Need some depth there. And then the other is wide receiver. Love Jacoby. Kobe is the most underrated offensive player in the National Football League. Doesn't drop anything. 1,000-yard guy. Would have been 1,000 the year before, but I won't even get into that. But anyways, I love Kobe. Love Trey Tucker. But they're very thin there. So those are my concerns. Here's the next one. Comes from Dan M. Name a couple of players that you think break out in 2025. This is a good one. I've got 2. The first one is a guy that's been here 4 years and had a really good half a year. Missed all of last year with injury. In the first 2 years, couldn't get on the field because of the higher coaches, not because of Robbie Leonard and Patrick Graham. And that's Malcolm Kuntz. Now, I want to tell you why I am developing these opinions of him. Um, I, uh, how do I want to word this? In the building, all last off season, his motor was high, practice high, performed high, training camp, same stuff. He gets injured. And I wondered how he was going to react. Some guys will have a pity party, and then all of a sudden they're 3 or 4 months into their recovery and they're like, okay, I got to get out. I'm in a mental spot. Not him. He was in the building. He was watching film. He was working on parts of his body he could work on when he couldn't work on the injury. Um, Everybody thinks he's going to be a beast, but I'm going to give you another one. And this one may shock you a little bit. It's a guy I'm very high on. Amari Gaynor, the linebacker. He's going to get some opportunity now. Now, it's going to be up to him to make the most of it. But the Christian Ellis, the Pats signing that offer sheet, yeah, I think he's got a chance. Now, it depends on what happens at linebacker. And but I'm just going to tell you, I think that youngster has a chance. I'm a buyer on him. I like his physicality. Um, I have a name of a guy he reminds me of. I don't want to put that pressure on him right now. I'm going to wait till training camp. But in training camp, if he continues to remind me of that guy, I'm going to, before the season starts, I'll tell you who I think he could be. And it's a very big name. But Amari Gaynor, he just flashes now. He just shows something quick. And he's good. I really like, and I love his physicality and his speed and his strength. I mean, he's a ready to go guy. I love it. And, there were times he was swimming a little bit last year, but he's a rook. You expect that from a rook. But remember, I was big on Jacorian, and I'm almost as big on Amari. I think that guy could be special. All right, next. Hondo, you are so high on the Greg Olsen being rehired. I remember you being critical when they let him go. What is it about Greg Olsen me and others don't see? I don't know because I don't know what you see. Greg is a great coach. Now, have the positions he's always coached been great? No, but sometimes you're trying to make lemonade out of chicken poop. I'm not saying he's had chicken poop at quarterback always, but he certainly at times has been behind the eight ball. And Greg, the way he teaches, the way he relates to people, if I had a young quarterback and I could pick anybody in the NFL to develop that young quarterback, it'd probably be Greg Olsen. I think he's very underrated. And I think it's really cool that Pete brought him in. I think he is an underrated coach on this staff. The Raiders, he's going to be great for Aiden, and he's going to be great for whoever the other quarterback is they pick and whoever else they potentially bring in. But yeah, I'm big on Greg Olsen, and I'm big on him not because it's just my opinion. I don't know. I've not talked to everyone, but I've talked to a ton of people. I don't know anybody that Greg doesn't have tremendous respect. I remember when he got fired here and people were like, get out of here. You suck. You're terrible. And I told people that guy's going to have multiple opportunities for multiple jobs. And he did. And he's done well. James W. says, I respect consistency of message from you. Over the years, name someone on this team that you don't feel gets respect for consistency. James W. I appreciate you noticing my consistency, James. Dylan Parham. And I'll give you another one. Colton Miller. I I don't get the hate on Colton Miller or Dylan. It makes no sense to me. Colton Miller finishes 23 with a major injury, comes back, and by the fourth or fifth game, he's healthy, and he was fantastic. And I always laugh at people. He wasn't fantastic. Okay. How do you say you don't know the game of football without saying you don't know the game of football? By not saying he was fantastic. Okay. Was he perfect? No. But he played extremely well. But Dylan Parham, the hate on Dylan Parham is nonsensical to me. He is Mr. Reliable, steady Eddie, does his job. Does his job. He's never a problem in the locker room. He's a great guy. I I am baffled at the Dylan Parham hate. I'm baffled at the Colton Miller hate, but I just don't get it. Those are two really, really good football players and good guys. And I can guarantee you, if either one was available for trade, there would be multiple teams. Now, they're going to pay more for Colton. There would be multiple teams making major offers for Colton. That's why I think it's going to be um, that's why I expect him to have a new deal or a restructured deal, however you want to word it, by the start of the season, is what my expectations, what I have been um, led to expect. Dylan Parham, same kind of guy, just steady Eddie. Does everything you ask him to do. He plays. He's not a guy that's injured every other down. Just and knows his job, does his job, takes coaching. Listen, the entire offense looked like chicken poop with Luke Getzey here and the staff he brought in. They all looked the offense, if it had been arrested for being a NFL offense, would not have had enough evidence to convict it. But if you know football and you go back and watch Colton when he was healthy, and after Joe Philbin fixed the ship, and you wanna say that those guys didn't play well, I got nothing. I got nothing. You should go to school, be a journalist, and write your opinions because I certainly am not the be all end all. I do not have a puffed up ego that thinks I am the only opinion but I talk to people around the league, I talk to people in the building, I talk to people all over, and I know what my eyes tell me, and those 2 gentlemen play the game of football very well. Neither's perfect. I don't think Dylan is a Pro Bowler. I think Colton, and as long as there's fan voting, it won't necessarily get in. But I think if it was just opposing teams and Colton got a whole year of healthy, he would be in the Pro Bowl. I don't think Dylan would be, but I think Dylan would be close, but I don't think he'd be in. But still, very good players. Next, Hondo, 3 years from today, who do you think's the Raiders head coach, and who do you think's their starting quarterback? From Susan T. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. First of all, I think it's going to be Pete Carroll. I've shared with you on numerous occasions what people around the league who've talked to him. He is coaching as if he's going to be here a long time. Great. He's a Hall of Fame guy. If he's here in 3 years, it's because he's having success. So I do think it's going to be Pete because I believe in him. Second, I don't think the starting quarterback's on the roster. But I don't think he's on the roster. I think Gino will be the starter. I think we'll get a couple of years of Gino, maybe 3 even. But he's been in the league a while. So I think at some point the Raiders will pull the trigger, get a quarterback, develop him, and then make the switch. Next one, Hondo, I'd love your thoughts on Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. Neil V. So Neil, I'm going to tell you this. Um, I'll tell you what, Neil, I'm going to come back to your email. I want to read the one after it. I don't know why they got ordered this way, but I'm going to address this other email, then come back to yours. This one comes to us from I got to find it. Give me a minute here. From Rodney C. Rodney C says, Hondo, I've heard you called people as potential generational talent, but not a dude. Can you explain that to me? Yeah, that's a great question. Jaden Daniels last year was a guy that the knock on him was he was small in stature, which is still true. That he played super aggressively, which is still true. And that there were concerns that he could take the beating that comes. And because he's so competitive, would he be willing to change his style? Okay. I said then, he's not a dude. There are too many dudes have no concerns. Abdul Carter, Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, Talise Fawaga. But that they had potential to be a generational talent. Now, you do not judge a player till after his 3rd year. That's my rule. Okay. And it's most of the NFL's rule, by the way. So what I would say to you is I think Jaden Daniels clearly shows a generational talent, you know, is a dude, but they've got to get there. I think Jaden could be that generational talent. We're going to have to wait. Does he go 3 years? Does he avoid injury or does he change his style and continue to win? Okay. Will Johnson is a guy that's injured a lot. He has potential to be a generational talent. Now, unlike Jaden played a risky style, but wasn't injured as much as Will Johnson. So there wasn't as much risk. Okay. Will is injured a lot. And I know the Raiders have already reported this. We're at his pro day at Michigan last Friday. But, looking at him, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. But I'm just telling you, I think he could be a generational talent if the injuries are behind him. His skill, everything about him is phenomenal. Everybody talks about great kid, but he is very injury prone. And the best ability is availability. You can't be a generational talent and miss a ton of games. You can't. So that's the only thing holding him out. Uh, if the Raiders are convinced that the injury stuff's behind them, like the Green Bay Packers were about Josh Jacobs and Nate Hobbs, then you pick them with no hesitation at 6. But if you're unsure, you don't know, you stay away from it. Because if you pick him, and so let's just assume the Raiders were to pick him. I'd be like, great pick with a chance of being a generational talent. But if he gets injured, I'm going to be very critical of the Raiders because they took an injured player who's off injured. I go back to, for credibility, when Jimmy Garoppolo got here, I said I would not have signed Jimmy Garoppolo. But Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels were risking their future on Jimmy. And I said, if he does not get injured, they deserve all the praise. And if he does, they deserve all of the blame. And that's what they got. If the Raiders go out and take Will Johnson and he stays healthy, John Spytek, Tom Brady, Pete Carroll all deserve huge pats on the back for getting a generational talent. And at that point, if he stays healthy, he will be a generational talent. But if he starts missing games for injury, it was a very risky, bad move. It is a high risk, high reward pick. And when you're picking at 6, you can't have those. So they better know. And if they pick him, great. It means they knew. They knew. Just like with Tyree. Guy has a chance to be a generational talent. And they knew his first year was going to be a mulligan. They didn't expect him to play, but a Chandler Jones. So last year in their mind was really his rookie year. And when you look at his rookie year, he played well. But we're going to know after his 4th year because you give him 3 and the first one was injured the entire year, didn't count, and they knew it. And if he's off injured again, which he hasn't been, but if he is, then you know it was a terrible pick. But they were 100% convinced he was fine and would get past the injury and be well because he hadn't had injury issues. Same thing with Will Johnson. High risk, high reward guy. Next, this comes to us from Juan R. You have done an excellent job on teaching about gap integrity on the defense and how Adam Butler is one of the best. I appreciate when you explain concepts. I recently heard you speak on a radio show about keeping your eyes off the ball to watch football and learn it. Could you explain that, please, Juan? So let me just say this, Juan. First of all, there's a book um, by Pat Kerwin, who's a wonderful journalist, great guy, friend, him and Jimmy Miller, my very good buddy. Jimmy's also Spartan, by the way, legendary NFL quarterback, Michigan State quarterback, great friend. But Pat wrote a book called Take Your Eye Off the Ball. And I really would encourage you. I think you can even get it as a DVD. I don't know that. I just would have been told that. But I would get Pat Kerwin, Take Your Eye Off the Ball. But obviously, you want to watch the game live. If you have a DVR a game, and then watch it and go back and watch it with the sound off, watching everything but the ball. Now, I'll give you an example. I've had people say, "Don't you hate? Um, don't you hate being so high in a press box?" No, I despise. This year at the Super Bowl, I was in the lower box, and I mean, I was 50-yard line. You can go look at my social media. I tweeted my seat, 50-yard line, and I was so low. I hated it. I want to be up in the rafters. I don't go to games because I'm at games. But if I was going to a game as just a fan, let's say I was going to go to a Michigan State football game, I would never buy the lower bowl seats. I want as high up and in the middle as I can get, and even the end zones are fine because you get to watch the play develop. Learn to watch football because offensive linemen will tell you where the ball's going. You'll get to see what wide receivers are running real routes even when the ball's not coming to them. You get to gauge effort. You watch how the defense is thinking. You see how defenders show one thing but do another. Watch if you have any games DVR'd. If not, go to NFL Network. Just start videotaping any game. save it to your DVR or yeah, and then go watch it and watch it without the sound on. You'll learn a lot. It's just learning how to watch the game by taking your eye off the ball. Next one is, hi, Hondo. My question is this. Following the Raiders last season, I heard a lot of statements around the sports media stating that Antonio Pierce did not get a fair shake as a head coach. Multiple well known sports personalities stated that Antonio Pierce was set up to fail due to having a bad quarterback and poor roster. The sentiment was that the Raiders had basically AP, that the Raiders had basically um, hired AP without giving him the opportunity to have a good quarterback and improving supporting cast. I feel that AP deserved to be fired due to multiple poor decisions made during games while he was the coach. After the Raiders, where did AP go? To my knowledge, no one picked him up to use as a D coordinator or even a linebacker coach. Not trying to throw any shade on AP, but for a guy that was often reported to have been given unfair treatment by the Raiders or was quote set up to fail unquote by the Raiders, what other teams picked him up for their coaching staff? Any insight regarding this from you? It seems to me that the Raiders have made top to bottom changes to become a winning franchise, better now, and positioned great for the future. All right, couple of things. Um, First of all, and I'm gonna talk on both sides of this, so please hear me out. I do not believe AP was set up to fail, and here's why. He was given a contract. That contract's been fully executed. So he's gotten every dime or is getting every dime owed to him. Number one, that's completely fair. Um, Number two, he knew the quarterback situation he had. The Raiders tried to move up, they couldn't. Now, I will tell you, um, he swung for the fences with Cliff Kingsbury. Um, that deal did not work out, although the Raiders had every reason to believe there was a deal. So I don't blame the Raiders for that deal not going through. And I've shared that in the past. You'd have to go explore what I said in the past. Um, the Luke Getzey hiring was terrible. And I think, let me go back to this. If you've ever watched Matt Millen on It's a Football Life on the NFL Network, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'm on there. That's not why you should watch it. But there's a statement I made about um, Matt Millen on there, and Matt's a dear friend. I made the statement, what made Matt a great player made him an unsuccessful general manager. And what that was this. As a player, he listened to his teammates and was a great teammate. And with the Lions, there was a lot of really bad opinion. And he tried to get consensus and listen to the team, talking about team meaning coaches, leadership, owner, that kind of stuff, not players. And so that hurt Matt. And I said it on his um, football life. And I think AP, rather than following his gut, listened to Getzey, and he paid dearly for it. I think if AP had a chance to do it all over, I think he would have put up resistance to Getzey, wanted someone else. I think he probably would have stuck to Bo Hardegree if he couldn't have got a couple of others. Um, but he would have clearly said, "This is what I want done." And when he made that decision, I'm cleaning house, it was too little, too late. On top of that, the discipline of the 2024 team was not the discipline of the 2023 team. That hurt him. And so I would say this to you. He was not set up to fail. Was he given the best opportunity? No, he wasn't. But it wasn't because the Raiders didn't try. And he was already hired. So, I mean, Tom Telesco inherits a coach who's already hired. So he's going to try to do, you know, it's why you can't put the cart before the horse, in my opinion. So, do I think he was treated unfairly? I think there were some things done that weren't fair, weren't a fair shot, but I don't think he was done dirty. And the Raiders aren't trying to not pay him his contract. So, and it's a contract he signed. So, no, I don't buy into that. I don't buy into it. So, there you go. Hondo, what's going on with Geno Smith? I know the Raiders had to do something by March 16th and they didn't. Is this going sideways? Russ J. First of all, I don't know. there he had a bonus coming on the 16th, but I don't know where your interpretation of they had to do something because they didn't. So I don't know where that comes from. I can't address that. Maybe you just misunderstood that. Number one. So the relationship is very amicable. There's no hard feelings and no anger. I will be shocked if a deal does. And that's not true. I won't be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised. And I expect the deal to get done. There's zero panic by anybody on either side. There's questions about guarantees and that kind of stuff. And he wanted to be here. He loves Pete Carroll. And remember, if he's saying, "Hey, I want XYZ guaranteed," and the Raiders are saying, "Hey, we want to do ABC guaranteed," there's always franchise tags. So if you just keep him on the deal he has and he plays out of his mind and you can't get a long-term deal after the next year, then you franchise him and then you franchise him one more year. And then you're into the third year, which I think they would want a young guy by that time to take over the reins. There's no animus. I've talked people close to Geno, talked to people in the building. There's no panic. Again, I would not use the word that I'd be shocked if a deal doesn't get done, but I fully expect it. So I would be surprised. I expect it to get done. Again, no animus. And I have not seen anyone trying to make people panic, but if somebody is, they're not talking to people in the building. Because remember, everything's amicable. So, okay, you know what? We're going to pay you the 31 million, I think it is, or 36 million this year, and we'll just do some after the year. Great. Geno's fine with that because if he has a great year, he can go somewhere else or the Raiders franchise him. And they're going to be a lot of money. So it isn't, there's literally no reason for panic whatsoever. So, all right. Thank you all for joining us. Now, listen, tomorrow is Thursday, my next mock draft. You don't want to miss this. I've got a very big trade that I've heard about as a potential, and I'm going to have a new player in the first round, a new player in the second round, and I think you're going to like tomorrow's mock draft. And again, it's based on things I'm hearing, and because I'm getting it from NFL people. So you don't want to miss it. Tomorrow's mock draft. I appreciate all of you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. God bless you all and stay out of trouble. And wherever you are, I hope you're just getting to enjoy springtime wherever you live with your family. God bless you, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.